Okay, before we get started here, we just need to get this out of the way real quick. Yes, I'm reviewing a movie that's aimed at kids. No, that doesn't give it any sort of a special pass from me. The last 100 years of filmmaking have proved that you can make kids films that are really well made. And also to say, oh, it's just a kids film, so who cares how good it is really disrespectful to kids. Movies like How to Train Your Dragon, and the Peanuts movie, and TV shows like Avatar: The Last Airbender, and even the classic Tom and Jerry cartoons are perfect examples of media made for kids that was really well written and really well made. So without further ado, Tom and Jerry is a movie that I saw the day after it came out in theaters. Oh boy. And here's a spoiler warning up front if you care about the spoilers for the Tom and Jerry movie. So here's the basic plot of the movie. Jerry wants to get a nice apartment in New York, but he doesn't have the money for it. We've all been there. So while walking through Central Park, he sees Tom, who is playing the piano for money, and he decides that he's going to steal the money that Tom has earned, and the chase is on. While Tom is chasing Jerry, he runs into Kayla, played by Chloe Grace Moretz, causing her to drop a delivery that she was making, which gets her fired from her job. Tom chases Jerry into a swanky hotel, and Kayla also ends up at that same swanky hotel, where she meets a woman in the lobby who is applying for a job. This woman is very highly qualified for that job, but Kayla manipulates her into not even applying, and steals her resume. Kayla then uses that resume to get the job for herself, and soon finds herself overseeing a huge socialite wedding, tracking down a missing engagement ring, providing marriage counseling, clashing with a coworker who suspects that she might be an imposter, and maybe starting a relationship with a bartender, and Tom and Jerry show up every 10 minutes or so to make sure that Warner Brothers doesn't get sued for false advertising. This really isn't a Tom and Jerry movie. Now, I kind of expected that this movie was not going to be good going in because I kind of knew that the concept of Tom and Jerry only really worked in that 7-minute cartoon format. And for once in modern Hollywood, my expectations were not subverted because, wow, this movie was bad. One of the most disappointing aspects of this film for me was the humor. Tom and Jerry is known for its great slapstick comedy, and like I said, they aren't in the movie that much, so a lot of the comedic heavy lifting falls to the human characters. They went with this awkward cringe humor, where characters will just talk and talk and talk and talk until they realize that they're being annoying, and then they just kind of stop talking, get embarrassed, and leave the scene. And not only was it not funny, but it just kind of reminded me of my own social awkwardness. So instead of laughing, I just felt sorry for these characters and a little frustrated at the movie for wanting me to laugh at them. The only other kind of joke that they really go for are these old people don't understand technology jokes that really just grated on my nerves. There was one line in particular by Michael Pena.
If a picture of this mouse is tweeted up to Instabook Face or the TikTok, we will be ruined.
Ooh, that just made my eyes roll into the back of my head. I know people who are like 85 years old that know the difference between these platforms. There is no way that you're going to convince me that Michael Pena, at that age, does not know the difference. There's also this electric skateboard that had the words GPS, Wi-Fi, like a brand name. And all I could think was, okay, I can't tell if they think that's funny or if the people making this movie are that technologically illiterate. And when we did get time with Tom and Jerry, most of the gags were lifted straight out of the classic cartoons, and I'm not saying like they paid homage to them, they just kind of copied and pasted them. And they didn't look nearly as good because all of the animation was really fluid and generic. It felt the most like Tom and Jerry during this one sequence where Jerry was relaxing in a hotel room, and Tom's trying to get into that hotel room from another building. But the action moved so fast that it just didn't have nearly as good comedic timing as the old cartoons. Like here, I edited this classic Tom and Jerry episode to have the pacing of the movie. And here's the original version of that scene. The timing is just so much better, and whatever little bit of Tom and Jerry-ishness was left in the scene was completely lost when the film had to remind us that it was from Warner Brothers with a Batman reference. Also, I know I'm no animation director, and I know that this is nitpicking, but this is not the face Tom would make right here. This is. And the movie was not helped by the music at all. And to be fair, the Tom and Jerry music has never been good since the original Scott Bradley music. The music he wrote was very intricate and complex, and it perfectly underscored each action and acted as voices, feelings, and sound effects. The score in this film is very, very generic and just sounds like Cinematic Orchestra Pack 2 stock background music. The film also has some kind of horrendous editing. The first thing in the movie that made me really go, oh no, was towards the beginning. We're introduced to Ken Jeong's character, and he's pretty front and center in the screen, but as you can see right here, what he's saying and how his lips are moving do not match up at all.
Why do you hate me?
This is just the first of a couple instances of some shady ADR. Also towards the beginning, there's this attempt at a J-cut, which is where the sound from the next scene starts before the visual cut to kind of make that transition a little bit smoother. The problem is that there's no tonality change in Michael Peña's voice, and since he's still on screen but his lips are not moving anymore, it looks like he's performing ventriloquism.
Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
The Royal Gate opened its doors in 1930 and was declared a New York City landmark by 1962.
Now, you might hear me talking about this and say, oh, but this is a kids movie. Kids are gonna love this. Well, I saw this in a theater with 30 small kids. I'm talking like 5 to 8 years old, like the target demographic for this movie. And the most that I ever heard this movie get out of them was a light chuckle. By about 2/3 of the way through this movie, half of them had gotten up and started running through the aisleways out of sheer boredom. There was an older guy next to me that was kind of giving polite laughs, like he felt bad if he didn't laugh at the movie the way that the movie wanted him to. The loudest laugh came at the end of the movie from a grown woman in the front row when Spike the dog passed gas during a wedding ceremony. That's the level we're at. I will say that I'm glad that people were paid to make this, because it means that people got to pay their bills by making a movie, which is really cool, and it's something that I want to do one day. But I will say that I wish that given that incredible opportunity, they had just put more care and passion into what they were making. And again, I don't know who to point a finger at exactly. A lot of this feels like studio interference. Maybe they were sitting behind the editors and animators saying, oh, no, that's gotta move faster. That shot can't last longer than 4 seconds because the kids have attention spans of a goldfish and we're gonna lose them if we don't constantly flash lights at them. Guys, Tom and Jerry is not good. Although I don't know that that's a huge surprise. It was a movie. There were obviously a lot of skilled craftspeople behind this. The lighting looked fine. The cinematography was generic but decent. The sound work was of decent quality. Even the animation was serviceable. It all comes down to the script, directing, and editing. I'm gonna give it a 3 out of 10. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like. And if you want to see more of my thoughts on various things, go ahead and subscribe. If you saw the Tom and Jerry movie, go ahead and let me know what you thought about it down below. And I'll see you next time.